cover until we have strength. We cover until we have strength.
Hello there, and welcome back to the Forge Podcast for men, by men, and courtesy of the Redeemer's Men Fellowship of RCCG Region 51, Tabernacle of David. Well, on today's episode, unfortunately, we could not have Kingsley Ifoga join us. However, we're still a delightful duo in person of myself, Emmanuel Okwala, and
Ida Hosa Fadaka.
Yes. You're welcome to today's podcast. Today, you're tuned into another very passionate episode in 2026. And we're going to be talking about love and submission. Now, most times, when people hear about love, you think loving or expressing love may be easier compared to submission. Just to say the word submission in any statement relating to marriage, and suddenly everybody becomes defensive. Some men hear it and think it's all about respect, while some women hear it and think control. But somewhere between the gender-specific roles, cultural norms, egos, pain, religion, and feminism, trauma, pride, social media opinions, and bad experiences, what was born of love and marriage became a battlefield instead of partnership. As Dr. Oke Onuzo states in his book, Between Love and Submission, a Tug of War.
Yeah, let's be honest, people want the benefits of love, but they don't want the responsibility that comes with the commitment. That's the sacrifice, the price they need to pay. Talking about that fact that people want loyalty in the absence of accountability, leadership without servanthood, as well as submission without mutual submission.
Okay.
Are we then right to assume that that is one of the reasons why marriages these days are harder, to maintain?
Well, today's conversation is not about who should do what first. Rather, it's about understanding. Understanding what does love and submission actually mean in the modern marriage versus what the scripture says about love and marriage. So love and submission in marriage, actually. So, is it outdated? Is it misunderstood? Is it abused? Or simply being explained by the wrong people? And most importantly, can a woman truly submit to a man she doesn't feel safe with? Does money play a huge role in the modern day love and submission journey? What do you think, Brother Osa?
Yeah, modern society. Like in some climes, we hear modern family. Now we're going to ask our guests to run through with us, but before we do that, let's meet our guests. Today, for the very first time on the podcast, and celebrating Mother's Day, and also without leaving out the new English champions, Arsenal winning the English Premier League. We have two Amazons, two amazing women joining us in this conversation. There are women with practical experiences, perspectives, convictions, and as well as trust. We're not here to rehearse answers, but we're here for real conversations, especially to have the ones that most people are afraid to talk about, even in the church. So let's meet our guests. We have two guests in the house this morning, Pastor Christiana Olaoye and Mrs. Sylvia Omotosho. You are welcome.
You're welcome to the studios, ma'am.
Thank you very
welcome.
much.
Thank you to the Forge Podcast. Welcome.
Yeah, in no particular order, we will run through our guest profile. Pastor Christiana Olaoye is a retired banker with over 35 years of international banking, experience across sub-Saharan Africa, Europe, Asia, and the UAE. She has held executive leadership roles, including executive director at FBN Bank UK, managing director of Energy Commercial Bank Ghana, and executive director at First Atlantic Bank Ghana. Today, she works as a financial and investment consultant and a leadership coach, training organizations within and outside Nigeria. An ordained pastor in the Redeemed Christian Church of God, she serves alongside her husband, Pastor Oyeniyi Olaoye, in ministry across London, Nigeria, and Ghana. Passionate about mentoring women and young girls, Pastor Christiana is committed to helping others reach their full mental and spiritual growth. Her life philosophy is simple: totally sold out to Christ. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome once again Pastor Christy to the Fresh Podcast.
You're
I don't know
welcome.
whether that CV is actually but thank you very much.
You're
and I'm so
welcome.
glad to be here today.
It is a
Thank
pleasure
you
to
for
have
having
you.
me.
You're welcome. And also to our amazing guest, the second guest in the house, in person of Mrs. Sylvia Morayo Omotosho, who is an interior designer and executive director at Flintstone Project Services Limited, a Lagos-based construction, real estate development and management company, which she co-founded with her husband about 2 decades ago. Educated at both Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, and at Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale, USA. She is an anchor and she is the anchor and coordinator of the singles talk show of the Tabernacle David in its formative years before relocation to the USA. A platform that molded, guided, and shaped singles into building Christian homes and godly families. Sylvia is married to Olufemi Omotosho, and they're both blessed with lovely children. Mrs. Omotosho, you are welcome to the Forge Podcast. Yes, it is a pleasure. And as well, we will not be starting this show without acknowledging and recognizing our online guests, which are joining us on Zoom, on the Zoom platform. First of all, we have Mr. and Mrs. Chris Aneto, the Anetos. You're welcome to the Forge Podcast. You're welcome to the Forge Podcast. Also, we have Mr. and Mrs. Adekunle, the Adekunles. You are welcome to the Forge Podcast. Please, if you can hear me, Mr. and Mrs. Chris Aneto, the Anetos, please, can you just unmute your mic and say something real quick? Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. Also, Mr. and Mrs. Adekunle, the Adekunles, if you're online and with us, please, you can unmute your mic and just say something. Amazing, amazing. And also, finally, for our online guest, we have Pastor and Mrs. Lanre Rahim, a.k.a. the Rahims. You're welcome to the Forge Podcast. It is a pleasure to have you. Please, can you unmute your mic and say something? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Could you please confirm you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you
Yes,
clearly.
we can hear you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining online. And as the conversation goes on, of course, we will be drawing your attention to one or two conversations. Without further ado, let us go straight into the program.
Straight into the conversation and beginning with just the basic. We want to look at the definition of love and submission in marriage. Firstly, as Christians, and how the society deems it. Madam, Pastor Christy, let's start with love and submission. What does it really mean?
Now, this topic is absolutely interesting one, but more importantly, I think it is essential, for building healthy marriages today. When Manuel was talking earlier, you mentioned something about modern marriage, and I really want to abuse that notion. I want to take that notion out. There's nothing like modern marriage and ancient marriage. Marriage is marriage, regardless of what century, whether it's the 16th century or whether it's the 20th century or whether it's going to be in the 21st century. And the underlying factors of marriage are not going to change. Yes, society may want to change it. Social media will want to change certain things. But for us as Christians, marriage is still the same. Now, when we talk about love and submission in the Christian marriage, I want us to look at Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21. Ephesians 5:21. And what you will see there, it says, and further, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Now, when Apostle Paul was writing this, he wasn't talking to husbands and wives. He was talking to the entire body of believers. And he was talking to mutual submission for all believers. And that means that whether you're a husband, whether you're a wife, as long as you are a child of God, as long as you're a believer, you must be submitted to each other. So this tells me that submission is not just in marriage, but submission is embodying, it is a part of the Christian life. That then tells us, so what is submission? Submission is not about oppression. It's not about who is superior. It's not about somebody being inferior. Submission simply means mutual respect. It means having honor for each other. It means loving each other. It means being able to sacrifice for the other. It means that you're accountable. It means that you're dependable to one another. So even before talking to husbands and wives, it talks to everybody, but then it comes to, now let's bring it down to husbands and wives. So when the Bible talks about love, it talks about love being total. It talks about love being unconditional. It talks about love being sacrificial. And it talks about God being love, and it asks believers to model the same kind of love. The Bible says, how do you show that you love your fellow brethren? By laying down your life for him. So when we talk about love in marriage, it means that you must be ready to give your all to the other person, just as Christ gave his all for you. Then when it talks about submission in marriage, it means that, yes, you must be ready to love and honor and respect each other, in the covenant of marriage. It doesn't talk about you being inferior. It doesn't talk about you being superior. It doesn't talk about you giving up your life, giving up your identity. No, it's just voluntary cooperation that is built on trust, built on respect, built on love for each other.
Amazing.
Amazing. Let's hear from Mrs. Omotosho. In your profile, we saw that you started a talk show for those formative years of TOD.
Yes, I've always been I've loved marriage. I grew up loving to be married, because I had my idea of what marriage
should be.
And thankfully, I got saved quite early to be able to, know what I. But even at that, I didn't get a full whatever of it. So, love and marriage, right? Love and submission. Sorry, I respectfully disagree about the modern thing and the ancient. I say they are different, not because the word changed, but because maybe at some point we didn't know the Bible well enough, or we didn't get the. I know women were not very exposed in the early times, so it was not when our mothers and our daddies got married, a lot of them was just the traditional. It was basically the traditional aspect of marriage, which at the end of the day has shown, over the years shown over the years in every other succeeding marriages. So now we know I'll give an example. Before I got married, I read the respect part because we're in a patriarchal society. So you hear that, respect your husband, respect your husband. But funny enough, I didn't understand the love,
the
Christ
love aspect of it.
Love your wife. I just had to respect her. And we didn't really know what is to respect. Respect to us was, it says, blah, 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 okay, do this, yes, sir. Do that, yes, sir. But when you find yourself, you see that it's not, as you study more, but maybe I didn't even study more before marriage, but yes, I loved this guy very much. And of course, he came with it was easy for me to respect him. He was a respectable young one. So respect was not, okay, I would say we're compatible. But in the course of, studying for this,
Yeah.
I dug into so many, resources. And the one that was profound to me was that you see somebody and say you're compatible. You're not compatible with nobody. It says, because we are first of all, we are all sinners. Your husband is, even though you are Christians, you're still living by grace. So you see somebody, and even if you're not Christians, when you see somebody, you know A, B, C about them. And then you just get married and wow, this one too is there. You now see D, E, F, G, H, I to Z. So it was, because and that has to happen because you knew each other as single, you didn't have issues, no children issue, no financial whatever to discuss, nothing. So it was like cherry ice cream on cherry on top, and you just cruising until you just get married. And so love and submission, love. So now we know love is not slavery.
Yeah.
Like she explained, is a sacrifice. When we are seen as Christians, especially as Christians, the first thing should be love, the love that shows Christ. And my mind, I was thinking it was just like God gave us an assignment. Jesus Christ came, and then he led, he showed, maybe we didn't have an example before Jesus came, but now he came, he lived the life of sacrifice, and he lived the life at the same time, life of service, So we're going to model that, and he said the husband should love the wife like Christ loved the church. Yeah. And I want to research. I listened to also said in a marriage, you are both playing the role of Jesus. You are playing Jesus as the master. You know how he was the master and all, and then how he was a servant to the point of washing his disciples' feet. He doesn't bring himself low. So you are living a life of sacrifice. Some people say it's 50-50. There's nothing like 50-50. 50-50 won't work. It's 100-100. You are giving yourself,
your best.
as if you can even give 150%. Because I know there's things I won't even consider for myself. But I know my husband, I know his taste, I know what he wants. So, for instance, if I want to buy my husband, I can't buy something I'll buy for myself. My husband will say I'm cheap. But I can spend, if I have the money, I can spend more than I can spend myself. So you're giving your all, you're giving your more than your best, the best of the best. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you for those opening remarks. Before we do a rejoinder, let's come to the Rahims. Now, Pastor Larry, you've heard the opening remarks from our studio guests. If I was to throw this question to you, do you think that the society has damaged the meaning of love and submission? Already, Pastor Kriti says we're not looking at modern marriage or ancient, they're just marriage. But has society damaged the true meaning of love and submission? What do you think, the Rahims?
I wouldn't say yes or no, and I'll give my answer. So the society actually evolved over time, and what used to be obtainable, even in the Bible times, grandparents, and where we are at the moment, there is education, and let's not forget that even the Bible that we are all referring to, there's a way that understanding of the Bible was brought to Christians as at then. I like the example that Pastor Mrs. Femi Omotosho gave. So you could find a situation where even cultural interpretations is coming into what it is that the Bible actually has put out for us to follow. So that's why it's a yes or no. So my thoughts would be that with the level of awareness that people have an understanding of the Bible, yes, there has been an evolution of the understanding of what love and submission is. And for my own generation and for my marriage, I see it as something that endures. So it goes outside of physical attraction. It goes even beyond emotions. We all know that you can have changes in your body formation, you can have changes in your looks. So I would say that those things are what endure for me. So you are with someone that is ready to go down the lane with you, regardless of how rough and tough it is. Somebody who shares enduring values. So for me, I would define that as love. In terms of submission really is also contextual, and like I said earlier, sometimes culture play into interpretation of what is submission.
Yeah.
In some culture, even though we're talking about what the Bible says, and whilst this is strictly a Bible conversation, so to speak, but again,
Sorry if I may correct there,
sorry.
sir. It is not strictly a Bible conversation. We are open to diverse conversation. So you can open it up, sir.
Yeah, I have enough latitude.
Okay.
Now, past 1 week, in the past 1 week, in TOD and outside of TOD, a question around this has actually come up. And I'm also in conversation with someone who actually wants to leave married. Now, the context is this issue of submission. If I am talking, don't talk. And when I have made up my mind, you do not have a say. That's the challenge that that particular person is facing. So my understanding of submission is feeling what the other person is feeling, showing empathy, understanding not from your own perspective alone and from the other person's perspective, and coming to a mutually agreeable position. So I would take submission from that angle. But when it's always winner takes all, then it's more of subjugation. You put one person as in perpetual um, Lord and Master role. And often misquoted is the way Sarah will refer to Abraham as Lord, Lord. Some people have also used that. I see that more as a form of affirmation, recognizing that okay, this person is a patriarch, but again, it doesn't dismiss the fact that Sarah actually would have had whatever it is was happening in their matrimonial home. So that's my perspective. Really.
Okay.
Very
Thank you
deep.
very much, Pastor Larry, for your perspective. Now,
Sorry, can I just add
Yes,
something to
go
what
ahead.
Landry- yeah. Because from what Landry said and from what Sylvia said, there's two things we need to, and you actually asked that in your question initially, the Christian marriage and the marriage outside of Christianity. And love and submission is viewed through different lenses when we look at both, which is why I made the comment about whether we call it modern marriage or ancient marriage. What we're actually looking at is Christian marriages and marriages that are not.
Christians.
Well-
you like so to say.
But even then, we still have problems with a lot of Christian
Definitely,
marriages.
definitely.
I'm also a premarital counselor, so I deal with a lot of young people in this. Now, in outside of Christian marriages, you see that love is viewed through the lens of emotion. Are we attracted? Is the person attractive? Do I like the person? Are we compatible? And so on and so forth. Or convenience. Yes, is he tall, dark, and handsome? Is she curvy? Is she this? Is she that? That's outside of Christianity. That's what we look at when we're talking about love. And then when we're talking about submission, in those sort of relationships, is more about control, subjugation. It's more about abuse, and that's where the difference is with Christian marriages. Christian marriages are founded on what it is we talked about earlier. That is mutual accountability, sacrificial love, and submission is not oppression, but it is about mutual love and respect. So it's just to buttress what it is he has said. So there's quite a huge difference there.
okay, let me just add that. So, which comes first, love or submission, or both coexist?
You want to take that first? They actually coexist, because it's difficult to have one without the other. True submission thrives in an atmosphere of how would I say? True a husband's love encourages the wife's submission, and the wife's respect and submission strengthens the husband's love. And so marriages work best when both are functioning together, simultaneously. Biblical submission is always connected to love and honor. You will not find it elsewhere. You will not find it in a situation of oppression or abuse. It doesn't happen. The story of Abigail and her husband, Nabal, despite the fact that the Bible says that when she was talking about him to David, she called him a name that I will not repeat here. But still, she still respected him. She still submitted herself to him. So, and, those situations will come, but they must coexist.
They must coexist. Okay. For me, at times when I talk to people about love and submission, I always look at the Bible. It said, the book of Ephesians, chapter 5, that you quoted, it said, husbands, love your wife. Then for the woman, it said, respect
your husband.
So if you do yours, and the person does just like what Mr. Moto said, give 100%, then it will be easier to navigate the marriage journey.
Well, which now takes us to the second segment of our program today. Should men demand submission, as in some cultural norms? And the truth is, men love submission, or let's say submissive wives, right? Or a submissive wife. Now, why is it that some women struggle with submission today? My question will go to Mrs. Omotosho.
So first, I don't think we defined submission. Oh, you're not done?
No, I'm not done. Just a minute, sorry. So in the event that men or a man cannot play his gender-specific role, should we still talk about love and submission? Do women in marriage submit to potential or only to stability?
Okay, so that's like how many questions?
So
That's a lot.
You need to remind me.
So the main question here is, do women in marriage submit to potential or only to stability, based on the ideology of love and submission in marriage today?
So first, what's submission? Submission is not, when it's forced, it's no longer submission.
Okay.
So submission, I put it. I was thinking about it and I said submission, like when you're in, I don't know why it took me to school, but when I was in school, the professor gives you an assignment and says, by 11:50, the portal is open, submit your work. So if you don't, 11:51, I'm shutting it down. Nobody will tell you. You don't need to be coerced. You know that you turn it in, because you know there are consequences. Your grades are going down if you don't turn it in. So that's submission. Submission. Nobody is forcing you. Nobody is psyching you to submit. It's a joy. I mean, you can't have the kind of marriage that she talked about and not submit. I must say, however, there are always some people. What do they call them now? That it doesn't matter what you do, even if you cut your head and put it down for them, it doesn't suffice. So, but a normal human being, when you have that submission that Christ talked about, you will submit. And so when you submit, what's the exact word you use?
So now, do women submit to potential or to stability?
So that is stability. Potential is too fickle. Potential is good, is attractive, potential, but you have to see that potential. And when I say stability doesn't mean, okay, you have everything already. But it means, okay, I see you're working toward, like when I met my husband, he was just rounding up service. But he would tell me things. That time I had not even said, okay, I want to marry you. So he'll be telling me things. I'm looking at him like, who asked you? Because I'm not saying we're not. When I was, how old was I? Maybe I was like 19 or so. Like, I don't know how this thing concerns, but he will keep saying, at the end of the day, those are the things I really, thought of. He would tell you, oh, I'm going to be this. So I could see potential. I could see stability. I could see, not stability, but I could see him working towards those potentials. It's not that you can't say potential. I go be. You used to have a pastor say, all we do is I go be. Where do you go? Where you want be? You are not acting towards your goal. You're not. I can't rely on that potential. But if it's you have a future, you have plans. I'm saying you're working towards. Oh, I'm going to be a bank MD. I'm going to be a whatever. You are taking these classes, you are doing, you're working towards it. I mean, I respect that. So it doesn't have to, it's not even about money now. You don't have to, but I know you are doing your best. You're not
making
sitting
efforts.
down, making efforts to hit the target. So yeah, it's stability for me, not potential.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Omotosho. But now, in this, because as we are, right, we have a lot of people online and seeing this program, and we'll still see it. We'll still see it. So, looking at the modern, I'm sure Mrs. Olaoye has said there is no modern or ancient. Right? Marriage is marriage. But then, some people still categorize it as, what my parents did that time. They
Yes.
count it as ancient.
Not like our
And
mothers.
yeah, we're not like our mothers. And then you hear women outrightly say it, that if this man is rich today and he goes broke tomorrow, I'm leaving him.
Yeah.
It doesn't, more like, just like you explain stability, that it's not all about money, and you see the effort the man is making. To them, they don't care about the effort. They are saying that the money is the stability they are fighting for. So my question will now go to Mrs. Olaoye now. Now, do women lose respect for men who cannot lead, financially and emotionally?
Okay. Let me go back to what it is you asked her, whether women submit to potential stability. And I want to remind you, Sylvia, you said it was easy to respect your husband, to submit to him, even when he didn't have anything. That's because you saw the character, you saw the vision, you saw the discipline, you saw the direction that he had. So yes, actually, women can submit to potential if they see the stability behind the potential. So it's not always at the beginning that the man has to be made. As long as you can see beyond the present and see what the future holds, you can start your submission right from the beginning, just as she did, just as I'm sure I did, and many other women have done. In the days, when we say about our mother days, whether our mother days or today, your mom didn't marry, my mom didn't marry my father, a made man. She saw potential when she married him. And it was the same thing with me. Many of us didn't get married at what of our generation? We didn't get married to made men. We saw men who had dreams. We saw men who had visions. We saw men who knew where they were going to. And so it was easy for us to hitch our wagons to these men and then to love and submit to them, right from the beginning, and not just after we were married. And that is where we have a lot of problems today with our men, our young men. Do women lose respect, or do they find it difficult to men who cannot lead? And when we talk about leading, the leading emotionally, leading spiritually, leading financially, leading, absolutely yes. It will be extremely difficult. A man has various roles. She had mentioned them earlier. The first one is to lead. He's the head. He's the lead. God has given him that responsibility to lead his wife, to lead his family. He's been given the role and the responsibility to love, his wife, his children, everybody. Now, that leading doesn't mean being oppressive. It just means being able to offer guidance and to show her that this is where we are going. Let's walk this path together. And that loving means able to protect her, guide her, provide for her. He's been given the role of provider, providing her financial needs, her emotional needs, etc. Providing financial needs. Now, this issue about money, a man can have all the money in the world, but if he doesn't understand his wife's emotional needs, it's a waste of time. If he doesn't understand her spirit, it's a waste of time. So when we're talking about a man being leading, he has to be able to lead in all the areas. Leading emotionally means, that he knows his own emotions, but also understands his wife's emotions, And this is very important for a woman. If your husband, your partner, is not able to communicate with you, empathize with you, that marriage is
Empathy, very
empathize. Believe me, that marriage is doomed from the beginning. So there's a lot to, and our men, unfortunately, are not being raised today. That is the major issue. Our men are not being raised as our husbands, as our fathers, as our grandfathers, where they were raised right from the beginning to be dependent, to be assertive, to be so on and so forth. Today, our men are raised to be lazy. You know, the world will come to you. Don't worry, you don't have to do anything. You know, you can pick up your laptop and be doing scamming or what is this, you know, and so on. You know, it gets rich quick. They're not ready to work hard. There's a lot of problems.
Wow. Oh, so that means there's a potential there. Yeah, there's a potential there that a man can actually lose the respect of his wife if he's not available emotionally to her. All right, so now let me now throw a question to our online guests. But this time, my question will now go to Mrs. Rahim. My question will go to Mrs. Rahim. So, Mrs. Rahim, thank you once more for joining us. My question to you is: has social media, does social media have a standard made for relationship? Has it made it more difficult in terms of, for both genders? I repeat the question: has social media standard made relationship more difficult for both standards in terms of love and submission? In other words, social media life and social media marriage and the likes, has it made it difficult?
Thank you, Emmanuel, for having me on this call. In relation to the question, when I think about marriage, Bible and not social media, our focus should be the Bible and not social media. Notwithstanding this, social media has an effect on, should I say, the younger generation when it comes to marriage, because there's so much going on out there. There's so much talk about women, feminism, women empowerment, and there's so much being thrown out on social media. And unfortunately, the younger sisters and brothers as well can really be overtaken by this perspective that they see online. And that is where the church comes in. The older couples, the counselors, that's where the church and older Christian couples should come in to make sure that these younger couples are grounded and that they should see beyond what social media puts out there. Because the truth be told, most times social media is not what most people post on social media is not the truth.
True.
It's what they want the public to see. A woman might come online, talk about feminism, say no, when your husband is talking to you, you have to prove that you're independent and all. But at home, she's doing the opposite. The fickle-minded women or men who follow what they see online without checking them out, they can easily fall prey to this perspective that has been put there and destroy their homes and marriages. But wisdom is very important, both for the younger generation and even for the older ones too. Having wisdom to know the right path to take despite what you see online is very key. And like I said earlier, the Bible is the standard, not social media, not feminism, not modern marriage in quotes, but the Bible should always be the standard, because at the end of the day, that is what we are being held accountable for. As a Christian, what did you do? Did you follow what the Bible says about marriage, or did you follow what the world standard is? Because there's a world standard and there's a Bible standard of marriage. Following the Bible standard of marriage is what will help your marriage to last the test of time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was really, really deep.
Can I
really
say something?
Yes, ma, please.
I don't like people. I'm a feminist. So I don't like people making. So there's toxic feminism, whatever.
Yeah.
And there's look at her achievements. If I ask her, I'm sure growing, on the ladder and everything, you must have encountered some.
Oh boy.
Exactly. So we can't cancel. So feminism for me is not about bitterness. It's just about a girl child achieving. I mean, in our house, our daughter, the first girl, she's the one that we spent the most. She chose the school she wanted, and it was a very expensive school, and blah blah blah. So I can imagine her growing and everything, wanting to attain a potential, but because she's a girl, she can't attain whatever. So I just what her feminism is not all about toxicity. There's healthy feminism, and that's when then modern marriage too. We're not looking at modern marriage. I'm not talking about changing the foundation, but like we said in time past, maybe we didn't really, like I said, use myself as an example. I didn't really understand I knew I loved this guy. I knew the basics of the Bible, respect, blah, blah, Sarah, Sarah as an example, and all. But then when we talk about modern, it's just like when you're talking about, I'm trying to find something that with modern machines and everything, the things we used to do things before. Not that those things are bad, but we just found a new way of doing it. Like now we know that, okay, marriage is not just about butterflies in a stomach and everything. Those butterflies will die. So it's just, those butterflies are temporary. So we're not building, we're letting people know that, oh, you saw him. Forget when you start, you won't remember those butterflies. So now it's about consistency, not just chemistry. Chemistry is good, but consistency. Sacrifice, because I put that especially, sacrifice without resentment, like you said, give out 150% if possible. Emotional safety is space where that is, husband and wife are vulnerable. You can be vulnerable with each other and everything. And then God created the woman too with a brain, You have a brain, you have a mind. If it was like, God could have made it like, okay, so when you get married, I will cease the use of your brains. Now your husband is everything. But no, he gave you a brain so that, okay, you can come together. It's not always about, okay, sir, oh, yes, sir. So you can come together, be vulnerable with each other, Of course, the man is still supposed to lead emotionally, but that leading is not dictating, okay, he says this, okay, we can talk about it, okay, oh, we should do this, oh, okay. But I think, blah, 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 oh, okay, would you think so? But he brings his argument. At the end of the day, you can reach a conclusion that, okay, we are doing this, and that's how it's going to be, And that's why that's why men these days, they say our mothers were not like that. Everything you don't want to correct a man. A man is, I go on social media very well because it's, like I said, I love marriages. So I said to my daughter, because she tells me, Mom, marriage is not anything like your own time. Boys are, boys are crazy. And everything. And I'm like, yeah, Mua, sometimes I can agree with you. If I was born at this time, this is my time to marry, I may not marry. Because the things that you see, what people are preaching, but again, I must say, not, like you said, not everything on social media is believable. But even the ones around us, marriage has really gotten so toxic. So people are more careful these days. People are scared, You don't know what are you going to meet there. You can't, it looks like with the news you hear, you can't trust any man. You want a man to grow. You really want him to grow. You are helping him. And I would have thought, it's okay, like I know, okay, like we discussed about stability. I go, okay, this man is stable, he looks responsible, but right now, maybe I have the money to help him achieve his goal. I would have thought maybe it was better when we were growing up. You could help the man, you could pay the man and everything, but these days, it doesn't happen. You do it for the man, he's actually in a very more stable relationship than you and him. And you find out that maybe his invitation you've seen is that, or somebody just send a picture, your fiancé is married.
So you're referring more to the fears now.
Now,
the fears,
now
you help us shed more light.
So let's just dive into that. Common fears about love and submission in marriage. One of the things that most men underestimate. So, can we speak on some of these fears that women carry into marriages? Because I remember, if I'm going to ask, I say, okay, if we go back, even like our parents, when they got married, some of the times, when you're talking about love and submission, is either at times out of fear, or maybe the culture, or even churches. Because I remember my parents' church, I think, the men, they call their wives D. And the women answer, my Lord.
Hallelujah.
So it was always funny when my dad would say to my mom, D, and she answers, my Lord. So invariably we're looking, okay, that is submission. She's submitting. But then, can we also say that at a stretch, our mother, is it that they understood the scriptural meaning of love and submission because they were able to go the long haul? So, what are some of these fears that we can speak of?
Just like I've mentioned that one.
Yeah.
You know, number one, you don't know because of the fear of what you have seen, you have gone through, even
the
have had
experiences.
relationship experiences, people's, your auntie's experiences, maybe your mother, sometimes your mom's experience, the very people that are supposed to role model, for you to build, to be able to build character and everything, and the things you are seeing around. If you really look around, that's why I said we can't really outtrue saying modern, because now then our parents, our mothers, they didn't have to be no question asked. You just go with and you are. Well, sometimes they were happy, but sometimes I've discovered that one day I was thinking to myself, I heard somebody say, and I was thinking to myself, if you investigate some of the reasons why some of those daddies died, their wives spoiling them. Because when tell me why I saw an old woman one day and she was telling her daughter, that see, this morning time is for, I know I've heard it before. They say, oh, women, you wait for when your husband is old, and then they now revenge all the things your husband has done to you. I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. But I know for an old woman, she was actually advising some young women, and she said, she was speaking Yoruba. I'll translate it, but the way she said it is the sweet and Yoruba. She said, ọjọ́ àárọ̀ tọkọ ni, ṣùgbọ́n ọjọ́ alẹ́ yín, ẹ̀yin lẹ ní, something like you make them suffer. All the things that they have shown you, you will do it, but you will leave them in the house. You will go and stay with your children. You will leave him. He will get them. You go for Mugo. You leave them. So those I wouldn't really recommend the marriage. Like we said, it's just make it a godly marriage. Our parents, there wasn't much of something to model. It wasn't enough to. Now you can talk together. You're not looking at your Lord, because when somebody is your Lord, he's your Lord. Or you have to talk to him
with reverence.
Yes, I'm the husband here. Even if the husband is committing adultery, those days, if you go to your report, they'll say, they say your things cannot be come to, and then you'll be angry. And so it becomes the order of the day. So you can but now you can talk for yourself. You can show Bible scriptures. You can, not in defiance, not like, okay, we are the same. And God chose me from your ribs, so I'm your sweetheart. So let's talk as sweethearts, not as Lord and Master. I respect you, I reverence you, and I give you your honor, but just say things my way. And that's what I think.
Brilliant.
Okay.
This is from Pastor Chris.
The fears, Sylvia has mentioned it. Many of the fears that women have about submission in marriage today have come from experiences that they've had personally in relationships, have come from stories that they've heard, unseen, their own mothers, their other female relatives round about them. So that's it. Now let's go back a bit. For a lot of our mothers, culture and society and maybe religion played a major role in their being submissive and being respectful to their husbands. For example, in the Ibibio Efik culture, where I come from, we normally hear about the fattening room process. It's not about getting you fat. It's mainly teaching you how to take care of your home, how to take care of your husband, and of course, submission is an integral part of that teaching. So in my culture, in my society, so right from girlhood, you are taught to respect your husbands, to submit to them, and a lot of our mothers went through that. And so whatever, unfortunately, some of our mothers fell into wrong hands.
True.
And so their submission turned to an issue of subjugation, as Larry mentioned earlier on, an issue of control, an issue of abuse. And then society normalized that abuse and taught you to be silent and to endure.
Continuous subjugation and submission.
Exactly. So for a lot of girls, may her soul rest in peace. I've had somebody like a younger sister. She's late now. But every time she was abused by the husband and went home, they sent her back into that environment of abuse until she lost her life. So, and this is somebody that was told, oh, submit, you must respect your husband, you must stay with your husband, you cannot leave your husband, and so on and so forth.
And pray more.
Yes, and so it is this sort of stories, thank you, and pray more.
Pray
It's
more.
this sort of stories and experiences that have made women, so afraid of this issue about let me submit. Now, you asked a question earlier, what do they call it? Social media has done.
Social media.
Now, social media gives unhealthy expectations about marriage. So social media tells you that your husband must be rich, your husband must provide, your husband must take care. Social media doesn't tell you that sometimes your husband will be in a situation where he can't, therefore you have to step up and do that, And then for the husband, social media tells them your wife must be beautiful, your wife cannot get fat, she must be slim, she must be hardworking, she must be so and so and so and so forth. And so it sells unhealthy expectations of marriage. And this damages love and submission in marriage today. A lot of people compare their marriages. And when Imelda was talking, she talked about young people. It's not just young people. Even the older ones, they are comparing their marriages to what it is they are seeing online and saying that, but my own is not like that.
Yeah.
So maybe let me step out. Maybe I need to check out. Maybe I need to do something different. So and it's happening more and more. People that are no longer content with what it is they have because of social media. And so they are no longer ready to be patient, to see the outcome that God has positioned and planned for them. They want to move at a pace faster than them. So unfortunately, the issue of submission, yes, fears are still going to be there, and a lot more girls are not going to be ready to. My last daughter now, we are praying for her. Seriously, please help me to pray. She has told us she doesn't plan to marry. She has seen her brothers and sisters married and said she's not ready for this wahala. Why? Because she has been taught to be Meanwhile, when we were teaching her to be self-reliant, it wasn't so that you will not marry.
Yeah.
Even our parents taught us to be self-reliant. My father always told us, make sure you go to school so that you have, and make sure you're doing something, but it was not so that you will not marry or you will not submit. But unfortunately, our young ladies today have taken it to a different level.
Yeah.
Since I'm paying all my bills, I can take care of
Why
myself.
do
I
I
don't
need a
need to
man?
marry. All I need to do is have one child or two, and I'm sufficient as a mother. What else do I need?
Funny you say that. My own daughter, the same. During Christmas, I was having a conversation, and she said, "Danny, can I just be okay being successful and don't get married?" I was like, "Why?" He said, "Because of
All these things.
everything that is happening and everything." So, but I was able to tell her that there's patterns, of course, that the world will throw out. He said, but for us as Christians, we cannot follow that pattern. Even if it exists in your lineage, there must be we must break it. The fact that this one is going through this, yours, you won't say mine is going to go through that. But I was able to encourage her, and she was like, okay, let's say, I said, but for now, the primary responsibility is just finish school. When we get to that, we...
And funny enough, my daughter, the second one, the first one, she wants to get married. Her problem is, Mom, where will I can't do this. When he sees people, she hears stories and Mom, I can't do this. I can't do this. How will I survive? I can't do this. I can't do this. But so before she would tell me when she was younger, oh, Mom, I just pray that I have a marriage like your marriage. But she grew older because the problem she now had with me was, so when we're on holiday, we're all together and it was fine. So when Daddy comes to the United States then with us, I'll cook. Of course, I'll cook for my husband. I'll serve my husband. He wants to eat. I'll warm the food. And they'll be like, Dad, you can't warm food by yourself. And they look at them like, are you okay? Mom, you're spoiling him. You're spoiling him. It's just, Dad, it's in the fridge already. He will not ask the boy, and say, okay, so Nifemi, when you get married, your wife will cook for you. I don't care. If I get home first, I'll cook the food. She will eat when she comes. Whoever gets home first, she'll cook the food. Why does it have to be the woman that just cooking the food? Then the social media aspect, like I've said, people post what they want you to see. Nobody will post. And for me, I'm guilty because I'm a very I wear my emotions on my sleeves. So when I'm happy, of course, I post my husband. I'm sorry, not long ago, my friend, she said to me, sis, you are so lucky. Everything is fine. Even though most of the time when I post, I can say, oh, my husband, blah, blah, I tell them that, but it's for today, that even as I'm talking to you like this, it can vex me and I'll just remove the picture from it. And I'll say to you that we have our days of a very weary. That is, I want to see madness. But that is just a wonderful man. So he said to me, sis, your life is so perfect. I said, sis, don't you see my rejoin down my post? There's no life is perfect anyway. It's not perfect. We fight very well, but I mean, I can't put fighting this. That we're abusing each other well content and I post it. So people should just have that at the back of their minds that social media is not real life. It's not real
That's the thing, not real life.
life. It's deceptive.
And looking at it, well, obviously I'm the youngest, married person here with the least experience. But I've always had this ideology, right, that marriage is like an aeroplane, right, where we have the pilot and we have the co-pilot. Now, the pilot majorly champions the flight of the plane and makes sure that everything is balanced. But that doesn't negate the opinion of the co-pilot in the plane. And in a marriage, we see, the man as the head of the home. We can assume him to be the pilot, and the woman as the co-pilot, right? Now, the plane you guys are driving are your children, your generations to come. If you guys do not plan it well, of course, you will crash. Which leads us to our next segment now, marriage today.
Before you go to, there's an interesting question. Let me just throw it up.
Okay.
Why do men struggle to show love sometimes? Is it because they have not been taught? Or they don't understand what it means to love as Christ loved? Or are they afraid to be taken for granted if they show love and vulnerability?
Wonderful question. Wonderful question.
She answered all the questions.
She answered the question. Okay.
She gave all the answers.
It's all, it's, it's
not
all
simple.
three.
Yeah, it's all three.
It's all three. One, the African man, the black man, compared to the Western man, they show love differently. The Western man has been taught from an early age to show emotion, to express emotions. They're not afraid to cry. They're not afraid to hurt, etc. But the African man, our society says you should not cry. You should not
Be a man.
don't be a woman rapper. They hear phrases like that, all the time. So society has taught men that don't express your love. The woman should love you more than you should love her, and don't let the whole world see that you love your. Otherwise, they will use it against you. That is what they are told most of the time. That's one part. Second part, again, past experiences. Men have loved and been hurt in the process. So again, they are afraid to love again. So it's all three parts.
So men can also experience hurt.
Yes.
I remember I had a friend, just like Pastor Christy said, the African man. I think it's un-African for a man to give flowers. And I heard a
The
funny
first day
story.
my husband gave me, I wept. I'm serious, because I grew up so I'm used to getting flowers. So it took our sons, to remind him that, for once, send this woman. So on my birthday, I was in Ghana, I got flowers. I cried. Pastor Olaoye. I cried though. I couldn't believe it.
This friend lost his fiancée, and when we were finding, I said, "What?" He said, "The lady, of course, it was a white lady. He refused to give me flowers, and he was like, flowers." So we looked at him and said, "Oh, see, you still refuse to give flowers?"
But some women will tell you that I'm not a goat. I don't want flowers. Give me money instead.
All right, let's continue.
All right, on our segment 4, we talked about marriages today. Now, do we think that marriages or modern marriages are becoming more of partnership or competition? Now, my question, luckily we have 2 established women in the house today that can attest to, their accomplishments in life. So my question to you, Mrs. Olaoye. Now, as empowerment, independence eroded love and submission in modern marriages,
Has
has
empowerment
and independence eroded love and submission?
and submission in the modern marriage. Okay, the first thing I need to put out there, is that, many times women, whether old, whether young, come into marriage on the premise that this is equal partnership. But that is a fallacy for both men and women.
Okay.
God clearly made the husband the head of the house, and he made the wife the helpmate, the helpmeet for the man. But many men today have relegated their headship role, whether through for various reasons, economic challenges, and so on and so forth. And so they've relegated their positions as head to their wives. And then again, a lot of women were independent before entering into marriage.
True.
And therefore they seek to maintain that independence, especially economic independence, when they get into marriage. But the thing is, marriage was never designed to be a power struggle. Right from the very beginning, it was supposed to be a relationship where two people come together to become one, and although with different yet complementary roles. In some cases, yes, empowerment, independence, has made women a bit more reluctant, in modern marriages today. What I call marriages today, not modern marriages, have made them more reluctant to submit. And for the men, because they have not been taught to lead and to head their homes, it has also made it difficult for them to actually function in the role as husband, as lover, as leader, as provider, and so on and so forth. So there are many things that are challenging submission in marriage today, and this is just a few that we're mentioning. For me, as I said, one of the things is, throughout my career, I've had a husband who was an emotional leader. He understood my emotional needs. He knew what I wanted to do with my career. He understood, and he was ready to back and support me. And because of that, I was ready to give 150% of myself back to him. So when two people are in that sort of relationship where they understand each other, spiritually, emotionally, where they can connect, they have the same goals. You may not actually have the same goals, you may not have the same aspirations, but you are ready to support each other. Then it is easier for love and submission to grow in such an environment.
Wow. So it comes down to the understanding of both parties in order to build that successful.
And I will tell you a little story.
Okay, ma'am.
I think 3 months into the marriage, because I grew up in a home where my dad was provider, period. My mom, yes, she was working, but her own money, she used it for whatever that she wanted to use it for the house, and so on and so forth. That's her own business. 3 months into the marriage, my husband woke me up one day at 3 a.m. in the morning and said, let's talk. And talk about what it, because he has seen that I'm not doing any contributions home. And we were not born again. So frankly speaking, this issue of having to talk about finances hadn't yet occurred. But by the thanks be to God, that not long after we became born again, and so conversations like this became normal for us. We could talk about the finances. We could talk about how we were going to plan our lives, how we were going to plan for the children. And that is what is missing in marriages today. Those discussions don't happen before, which is why I said as a premarital coach, I always make sure that they sort of have these discussions before they enter into marriage, because it makes love and submission easier. When you hear stories about women that are building houses their husbands are not aware, or husbands that are doing things that their wives are not aware. It's because there's no love and submission. Simple and straight. But there's a basis for that. And if you ask them, they will tell you reasons. They have seen situations, they have experiences, they've heard stories, and so it's difficult for them to love and submit. But God, with God Imelda said something earlier on, all of us are accountable to God at the end of the day. We will all stand before God, and God will say, what did you do? What was your part in it?
Wonderful. Before I come to you, Mrs. Omotosho, let's just quickly delve to our online. Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Adekunle. Thank you for joining us. So, talking about this marriage on love and submission and marriages today, right? What is your opinion on can love survive when ego is louder than understanding? Do you think love can survive when ego is louder than understanding? Mr. Adekunle.
For me, I've been following the conversation so far, and I don't think love can survive when ego is high up there, because one of the major factors and causes of conflict in marriage is sacrifice from either of the parties. So most times you see that for submission, and they are not showing enough sacrifice on their parts to earn that. It's going to the final. Then you are definitely not going to get the submission or love in return. What you get at the end of the day is resistance from your wife, resistance from your partner. So when ego doesn't help at all in any way, you have to show sacrifice. Now your sacrifice and dedication to the person, to your wife or your spouse, that spurs that submission and love for you to get it back in return.
Thank you very much, sir. Mrs. Adekunle, I can see you smiling beside your husband. Do you agree with what he has said, or you think otherwise? What's your opinion?
Your own perspective.
Your own perspective.
Yeah, she concurs.
Oh, she can. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for your contribution. We really appreciate you. And now to Mrs. Omotosho. Now, thank you very much for your opinion so far. And I can say from your profile that was read out that you are an established woman in your field as well. So, Ma, do you think that successful women struggle more with following in marriage?
I think so. Because like she has explained, with the things, because the opinion, the thoughts, and if you hear the I can't even use myself.
I like what you say, if you hear the thoughts. So if we could enter into your head now.
But from what we see around, and we have friends too. But really, I tell people, I think majorly the people, we see them, but people you surround yourself. That's why it's so good to surround yourself with believers. Okay. Because I know we have friends that the wives are more successful, but you wouldn't even know because they just because that's how it's supposed to be. If you really love somebody, and if the man too, loves is a Christ-centered person, there won't be a problem. That's why all the problems we have in this world with marriages that has become so scary. It's just because Christ is not at the center. Even for us that are Christians, not that we don't struggle. Marriage is hard work. I must say it's hard work. You need to put in the work. So we still struggle. So imagine if there's no Christ. Christ is not in the center of it. It's easy. You just look at one day, you just pack your bags and say, "See, I'm done." Even when the husband is doing better, sometimes they just feel he's not doing well enough. He's not meeting my. We know people that the wives just pack their bags and I'm done. And it's not that they are the ones even. They just think there's more. There should be more to life. I want more. You are not ready to, meet me at the what my expectations. So, but of course, from what we see, like I said, so though social media is not real life, but there's life on social media. There's some things. I mean, there was a popular case flying around one of these days that they had a breakup and all their dirty linens they brought it to the public, and the accusation was that, oh, you sold, the wife had the property, the man, you sold my property, and then you used the money to carry girls. So there's the fear of that because it's very common. Like we say, if it's still that for people that are not Christ-centered, that don't know all these things that God has given us the grace to know. Like, it's not a big deal for them. They are still like, I'm the husband. That's when I'm the head of this home. So your paycheck, we've heard there are many instances of that. So your paycheck comes to my account. You want to be in charge of the finances, even though it is the wife working. So you submit your salary to me. I dictate how we spend it. So there's the fear of that. Like, it's just, most of this is just like we're repeating what we have said because it's just based on experiences, based on the things you have seen. So there's that, the fear is there. The fear has to be there. So yes, when money becomes that's why the Bible says money is the root of all evil. So as Christians, if in a Christian-centered home, you know that money, and that's why I said the friends that we have, that I don't know, I can't remember any of our friends, and we know we have a few that, but for Christian friends, they do fine. And they are not young. We're married to over 25 years. We've seen them, and they are doing well. God has helped them. But when God is not in the center, there has to be. Most of the time, there will be a problem.
Wow, thank you very much, Ma.
Success shouldn't take away humility. It shouldn't take away your ability to respect your husband. It shouldn't take away the issue of teamwork in the home. It shouldn't take away teachability and interdependence. But unfortunately, like she says, those without Christ, because all these are attributes of Christ, but many people without Christ have let ego rob them of healthy marriages.
But Ma, we say that we talk about having Christ in the marriage, and it should be Christ-centered. But then, is there not an expectation, of the successful woman that would make her want to submit to, the man in the home? Like, what expectation should she have, or why should she want to, submit aside from the Christ-centeredness in the marriage? Yes, Christ has said, "Woman, respect your husband." But now I'm more successful than you, right? So, what should I expect from you, or should I just stay there because Christ has said so?
Okay, a very interesting case. The couple is not in Nigeria, so I think which is why it's a difference. Maybe if they were in Nigeria, it maybe have been a different story. They had been married for 8 years. Both of them were doing very well in their respective careers. And then there was downsizing in the man's organization. So he didn't have a job. And he didn't have a job for the space of about 3 years. So in those 3 years, she was the one bringing in everything, more or less. When I say that we were counseling them, because she came to us with the same issues, that after a year, because, let's be truthful, we are flesh, we're the spirit flesh.
Yes, of course.
So after about a year, her flesh began to speak to her, and she was really getting frustrated, she was getting tired, she was getting really fed up with what was happening in the house, and she wanted out. But thanks be to God, they came for counseling. And I sat down and I told her, okay, you know what? Write down the things that your husband, yes, he doesn't have a job currently, but write down the things that he's doing currently. And so she sat down, took a piece of paper and started to. He's the one that wakes up in the morning. He's the one that prepares the children for school. He's the one that gets their lunch boxes ready. He's the one that takes them to school. He comes back and makes sure the place is clean and tidy. So everything that a household, I'm just saying, so he was more or less a house husband. But all the stress that she would have been going through, having to combine her career and her home at the same time, the husband had taken it off of her. And I told her, and I said, and you know, after you have said, as she was writing, when she started crying because she suddenly realized that this man is an important and integral part of my life and of this home. Believe you me, by the time the husband came to pick her up for the session, she went on her, nobody told her what to do. She went on her knees to begin to appreciate him, to beg for forgiveness and all that. So yes, it's not just about, the things we need to learn that marriages is two people working together.
Yeah.
And if that teamwork, that unity, that interdependence is not there, then it's difficult to love, respect each other. But once you understand that this person is contributing, and I am also contributing, and we are both contributing to the success of this home, then believe me, it's easier to love and respect.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I needed to ask that question because the explanation was coming from an angle of Christ. And like you said, these are two flesh coming together, So it's all about the contribution where, yes, I'm contributing financially. What are you bringing to the table?
Yes.
And, so thank you very much for shedding more light.
he got a job not long after that, but at least for that period, she was able to come to clarity.
Interestingly,
Thank you
as
so much.
Mrs. Omotosho was saying, I remember in my former parish, we were having questions and answer session. And a young man got up and said, excuse me, Pastor, my wife, I don't know how much my wife earns. And when they pay her, I don't know what she does. And we threw the question at people like, it's not right, he's right, it's not right. He's right. So I now answered, I said, for we men, let us not get to that position where we'll be looking at what our wives are earning. That we must pray to God, to bless the works of our hands.
Yes.
Because those things can, actually cause conflict. And like she mentioned, having Christ-centered relationship. I think there was one of the matriarchs that was asked in US. I was like, Mama, have you ever had conflict with Papa and everything? She said, no conflict. But mother, yes.
I like that.
Then you people are talking about quarrels and everything. I wanted to kill him. So, but then you look at it again and say, it's like a Christ-centered. We're coming from different histories. 35 years, 40 years. Well, how long did we get? We got married at maybe 25. They have 25-year different history, but they were able to work it out. And by today, we are looking at them as the patriarch and the matriarchs in the Christian faith. I believe we've touched almost everything. But just one more before we go into this last section, episode 6, where we'll speak about healing, because that is what the Forge podcast is all about. After having a healthy conversation, then we look at the counseling and the healing aspect. I think it's Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 12 that says, wisdom is a defense. Money is also a defense. He said, but the beauty of it is that if you have wisdom, you will have life. Can love and submission thrive in the absence of money? Because, like we said, our parents, most of them started from scratch. They built, but these days, we have some ready-made guys and everything. A woman will say, no, I don't want to suffer. Let him have this. And then let me see that at least. Gio said something. He said, the guy must have a home. He must have a house. He must have a job. And they have the job. But must have a car. It's raining. I can't. So when you see, we talked about people writing their own vows now and eliminating the normal, the one we're used to. Now, in the midst of storm, when the boat is being rocked, when there is trial, there's tribulation, in the absence of that comfort, how easy is it for love and submission to thrive?
One thing, yes, money can bring comfort into the home. But there are so many instances where the money is there, but there's financial infidelity. There's financial irresponsibility. There's financial abuse. There are situations where the man has all the money, but the woman cannot touch, she cannot ask, she cannot demand. So please, what comfort
Is
is
it
the
bringing?
money? There's where the money is available, but it's being spent outside and not in the home. Of what comfort is that money? So when you ask the question, can love and submission exist without money? What brings peace into a home is not really money. As I said, money brings comfort, it doesn't bring peace. What brings is the emotional connection, is the spiritual connection, it's the character of the two individuals, and their ability to function under a covenant relationship. That is what brings peace. And that is what we are actually looking for, is really not the money. So money can bring comfort, but it is not the basis for love. It should not be the basis for love and submission.
Sure.
I think, like I was saying to somebody, I think the reason why people attach so much importance to money is that, like, as Africans, we've seen poverty. We have seen poverty. So then you now think, you say so a woman, for example, I provide in this house, so you cannot do this. You base everything. I'm the one that provides. Is it me that my daddy that will provide? Of course, you provide. So we worship money more than. For me, the little things, I'm even thankful. The little things I can afford. The first place, I have gratitude that, because you see people going through so much struggles. I just say to myself, the same God created us. I didn't do anything better. I didn't study better. It's not because of anything. So if you see money as a gift that God has given you, it is not because you got it because you know how to do things and everything. Then you will know that it's not something to use as a means of oppression especially for your partner. You should like own it together. You should have access. Don't now make it a point of an abuse, that the person will feel abused or feel. What's the point? You have all this money, nobody are not seeing it on you. You are seeing it on you. We know, but we can't see it on your wife. So money should not be the main consideration. So I think, but it's just poverty mentality to think when you have money, money is good though. Let's not lie. Like money, there was a popular saying, and you know how bad it is now. Like we say, people are not ready to wait. They'll tell you, rather the popular saying, I'd rather cry in a Lamborghini than on Okada. But the people that used to say it, we see how the outcome of some of them. We've seen the outcome of crying in a Lamborghini and what they are going to do. Now, sometimes you now even say to yourself, I wish I never had this Lamborghini. I wish I was just how the Bible says, godliness with contentment is great gain.
Yes.
Yeah, be content. Don't. A content person will not act. So I believe.
Pastor
money
Larry
should
Rahim, the Rahims, can we have a rejoinder from you on the aspect of money and love and submission?
Yeah, so it's not possible to completely divorce money from marriage. It should not be the root. I like the perspective around that Pastor Mizalawi perspective that it should provide comfort. And I like the examples around irresponsibility. Yes, we're still talking about money, abuse, and all of that. So it's simply, with those examples that she gave, it simply means that it is a factor that should be considered. We have seen so many marriages, and we can also fact check this. We have seen so many marriages breaking down because um, some basic things were not met in those marriages. For example, being able to take care of children's education, being able to provide food at home, uh, and the burden is actually shifted squarely on one particular person, especially if it is a man in this particular instance. And we also have seen situations where a man is asking his wife, "What are you even bringing to this marriage?"
To the
You
table.
just cook for me and all of that. What, you are not adding any value, especially for
Just having children.
a man who must have seen it or possibly coming from a very difficult background, struggling to make it in life, and the wife is actually not contributing anything. And it just takes me back to one of the advice that PKP usually gives on the altar, that it is not safe in any marriage for, especially the times that we are in, where there's a lot of volatility around jobs, that a woman should not be doing anything, because even the man can suffer job loss, business can go upside down. So I would say it's a factor that cannot be ignored completely. That it is very important that a marriage has some level of stability around, just depending on the individual marriages, some level of stability around taking care of basic things. Yes, the definition of what that level is can actually be left to individual marriages, but again, I would say it's a factor that cannot be ignored.
Amazing.
Thank you very much, Pastor Larry, for that. And in rounding up, coming to a time of healing, for our studio guests, Pastor Chris, Mrs. Omotosha, if you were to speak to some of our guests listening, and also to marriages, both Christian and secular. So what kind of counsel can you, what kind of advice can you give to any marriage that is actually devoid of this love, true love, and mutual submission?
Okay. People going into marriage, normally come into marriage with a lot of baggage. Both husband and wife, different backgrounds, different experiences, and so on. And so by the time they come together, things begin to rub off each other. And where there's lack of understanding, lack of communication, and so on and so forth. Now, where these issues are, the first thing, as we did with the story of the couple I mentioned, is self examination. Each person needs to go back and start with self examination. What is in me? What is it I'm doing wrong? What is it I'm supposed to be doing? And then once you've done that, then the issue of repentance. Are you really ready to change from those ways? That is where you have accepted and acknowledged that there is something wrong, you're doing something wrong. Are you ready to repent? And then once you've done that, there has to be a process of communication between the two parties, where they stop seeing each other as enemies, but now start seeing each other as friends, covenant partners. And then again, then there has to be the issue of intentional rebuilding of the marriage.
Yeah, for me, I would say for, intending and people married, the most important thing that I think is just give each other grace. Give each other grace. Be kind. That kindness, I can't even stretch it. Be kind. Because I think every other thing comes out of not put yourself in the position that try to imagine you are the other person, and then whatever situation that you are. So I know we're not all the same at the end of the day, but basically think of yourself, okay, if I was in this position, how would I want to be treated? Or if if it's the other person, just give yourself grace. Don't condemn. Like we all come from different backgrounds. We've had different upbringing. We've had different things. We've been through different situations that can define and shape us. Somebody said 90 or more than 90% of Nigerians are traumatized. But even if you are not, that we've suffered trauma at some point in our lives, So consider that. Don't give up on anybody. Don't give up on your spouse. Don't give up on your spouse. Don't give up on your spouse, because they are presently, considering whatever you are going through at that moment, that might be a reason why some of those things you are seeing are happening. So give him grace, give her grace. And as a man, we really, let's even be sincere. Let's not lie. As women, women go through stuff, and we've seen a lot. I always say women will have the shorter end of the stick in most situations. So we just want to lean on you, want to rely on you. Don't be patient with us as men. Be patient. Just have some patience with us. Don't take it at face value. You are men. That is when they say you are the head of the home. Let's even take Bible house. You are the head of the home. Put yourself as the head of a company. Because in Nigeria, they put a burden on women that, your home depends on you. You are the one that's, I understand that. But at the end of the day, you are the captain of the ship. If this ship wrecks, it is you. If this, headship is for structure, is for, when they say the structure of something, it has to be solid. So as God helps you, be that structure that the home needs to lean on. Just take charge. When you are going forward, you are the general, and we know that. Don't worry, sometimes we don't look like we know it, but honestly, we know. You are the general in this army. You are taking us to war. Because at the end of the day, marriage, it's not easy. And if it breaks down, the devil is happy. The devil has won the battle in that case, so we don't want the devil to win. So take charge as the head of this home. That is what heads are meant for. That's what heads are meant to do. They're supposed to take charge and to steer us to safety as the captain of the ship. So, God help us.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. From what Pastor Lion says, self-reflection. Reflect. What are those things that I'm doing that I need to change? She talks about repentance. She talks about communication. And one good thing Mrs. Amotosho said, she said kindness. And still as she was saying that, something just crept up to my mind, which was, I just reflected on the fruit of the Spirit. When you talk about joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, gentleness, And truly, if you have this in your marriage, when love and submission will not even happen. You just see things flow
into place
naturally.
And to every man listening, right, it's not about who is above. It's about who is choosing to be deliberate with one another, who is choosing to compromise, not for the greater good of the marriage and not just for individuality or selfish reasons. So to every man listening today and every woman watching, become a kind man and a kind woman in your home. Become that person that it will be easy to submit to love and make that marriage flow. And we pray by God's grace, everything will go well in your homes and in your lives as individuals. Well, to our major sponsor for the program today, today's episode was proudly refreshed by Nature's Only Salad and Smoothie, Lagos' favorite healthy meal and fresh juice brand. Cold pressed juices, detox smoothies, fresh vegetable salads, parfaits, wraps, and many more. No preservatives, made freshly and delivered to you. You can reach them on social media at Nature's Only Salad and Smoothie or on WhatsApp on 08025449213. From Nature's Only Salad and Smoothie, they say smile because it's healthy.
Yeah. And this is where we draw the curtain on behalf of the entire podcast team. We want to give a big shout out to our leader, PRM, Pastor Remy Morgan.
Thank you, sir.
The PICRO for Region 51, Pastor Amadi, the resident pastor, and our own regional RMF president, Pastor Austin, Pastor Aigbe, and every man and everyone there who has been supporting us and still supporting us. We'll say a big thank
you.
And talking about support, there's been a support that has spanned more than 2 decades. And after 22 years, they rewarded our support by winning English Premier. We're not just talking one
These
time
Arsenal fans.
the
These
Arsenal
Arsenal fans.
star.
Come on.
for this beautiful jersey. You can see it was already foretold. 14. The Forge is a proud supporter of the Arsenal. Champions privileges.
Well, we have to give it to them. You know, they fought a good fight. Thank you very much. I remain your host, Emmanuel Okwala. Signing out, do not forget that this is going to be a triumphant week for you, and we'll catch you on episode 10, when you will be discussing on a very critical topic affecting marriages. And our topic is going to be on separation, divorce, and remarriage. You wouldn't want to miss that episode. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
guests.
thank you to our
Thanks for
amazing
having
Thank you
guests.
for having us.
Guests,
It
our
was
Zoom
really
guests,
amazing.
the Rahims,
Yes,
the
yes,
Adekules,
yes.
the Anetos, and every other one on queue on the
We
Zoom
behold
portal.
until
Thank
we
you for
have
Thank
honoring
you.
us
Thank
with
you.
your
We
presence.
cover until we have strength.
Bye.
We cover until we have nations wait. How long can you wait? How long can you wait on me? How long can you wait? How long can you wait? If it takes an eternity.